The Slippery Slope podcast expressly disclaims any and all liability or responsibility for any direct, indirect, incidental, special, consequential, or other damages arising out of any individual's use of, reference to, reliance on, or inability to use this podcast or the information presented in this podcast. The views and opinions expressed by guests on this podcast are their own and do not necessarily reflect those of the host or the management. This podcast should not be considered professional advice, and listeners should consult appropriate professionals for advice tailored to their special needs.
Got my eyes straight ahead, got my head in the game. With the red light on, I'm just waiting for the change. Keep my head down low.
Hi, this is j-fallon, and thanks for listening to The Slippery Slope. So today I'm going to be joined by Heidi Ward. Heidi Ward's had a few very extremely interesting cases, involvements with the Queensland Police Service. I think it's very intriguing in what's happened to her. So the two instances that I'm going to talk with Heidi about today, there was one instance where Heidi was she appeared in court. Heidi had been charged with an assault. She had assault allegations, appeared in court in 2021. The jury found Heidi not guilty. The district court judge had labelled the assault case as one of the most trivial cases he'd come across in 3 decades. It took the jury 12 minutes to decide that Heidi was not guilty. Judge Brad Farr questioned why the Director of Public Prosecutions had allowed it to run as a jury trial, labeling it as extraordinary. And then the second case that I want to talk to Heidi about was Heidi again had appeared in court, and it all got finalised in September of 2023. Heidi had fronted court more than 30 times, successfully defended herself against these charges. Now, when Heidi's gone to court, the magistrate, James Morton, dismissed the charges. There were 6 charges, Heidi, I believe it was. The first one was removal of persons from premises, assault police officer, commit public nuisance in or near licensed premises, obstruct police licensed premises, and willful damage of police property. Now, the magistrate dismissed all those charges because the police offered no evidence. So this is why I'm very interested in talking to Heidi. I want to get Heidi's take on all this. My thought process is, as a former police officer, who I personally would have gotten in a lot of trouble when I was back doing general duties, Heidi. I would have gotten in a lot of trouble if I'd have charged someone and then let it go all the way to court and then said, "Oh, actually, I've got no evidence to offer." So, Heidi, how are you? Sorry to give you that long introduction. I just wanted to make sure I got it out there. So we're all on one thing. How are you, Heidi? Good to see you.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm still fighting the system and really about the education of police and how people can be put through a system like this, and for 2 years, 2.5 years, and then 5 minutes beforehand they say, "Oh, we've got no evidence to offer." And how they actually file and how they get away with that. You've mentioned 2 cases, but I have to say it's happened to me on 2 further occasions that both of them went for 2.6 years. And at the pip of the post, 11th hour in trial, the same thing has happened. So that is 3 occasions, which is nearly 8 years of my life fighting a battle. And the problem is there is no real compensation for it, because if you want to go down the civil path to get compensation, you've got another 3 years fighting against the state of Queensland.
That's extraordinary. Can we go back to the first one that I'd seen? So you'd been charged, I believe it was 2019, and it all got finalised in 2021. This is at the district court. Can you explain just that one first off, please? What happened there, what you were charged with, and what went on?
Yeah, so I think there were 7 charges that I was charged with, which essentially came out in cross-examination. I was running for council at the time, and my mug was on call flutes all around the town. I'll get the job done, running for Division 2. And one of the witnesses actually was found to have a text message that actually said she's been set up, that I was set up for this to happen. and I was at the Airlie Beach Hotel, and we were just having a good time. A friend of mine was up on stage, and next thing you know, the bouncers come over to me and said, you had to leave. And I'm like, why? We're waiting for the courtesy bus, which we had ordered. And he basically said, you got to leave, and started getting quite aggressive with me. So I got my phone out to film his behaviour, and he lunged forward and picked me up in a big bear hug. And I had the phone in my hand. I literally put my hands across my face like this with my phone in my hand, and I was thrown to the ground, and I was crying across the road, and the police turned up and accused me of hitting him with lunging and hitting him with the phone. He had no injuries. Justice Farr actually said to him, where did you get injured? Where were you struck? Because unfortunately I can't see anything in the photographs because there was nothing. And he pointed to the wrong side of his face. And he'd obviously looked at the picture or what have you, or the reflection back at him, and Justice Farr had to turn around and say, it's the wrong side of your face. And as the witnesses that were being brought in for him, I cross-examined them and questioned what injuries they saw, and all of them had such varying descriptions. Oh, his whole face was bruised, and his nose was this, and yeah. So essentially, it unravelled itself very, very quickly, and so basically, the jury, it was under 12 minutes that was all over and done with. And in fact, the DPP got, I wouldn't call it sanctioned, but Justice Farr basically gave them a really serious talking to off record. Yeah.
How did it even get that far? But how was it allowed to get to a jury trial? Did anyone explain that to you?
No, well, I asked middle. I said it was a price. So originally I had a solicitor, never seen it really what happens in court, went there. And when she said to me to take it to trial, it was going to, I had to put $30,000 in a trust fund, starting at $5,000. And then if it actually went to trial, what that would cost. I just went, I can't afford that. I worked too hard for that. I'm not wasting it. So clear. I know what I did. It can't possibly go on. And I said, I demand a jury. And I got introduced to Daryl O'Brien from Know Your Rights through a friend of mine who's a scientist. Anyway, so he explained a lot about how things work, and he told me about the Constitution and things like that. So I sort of started asking questions. And I said, well, I want a jury because the Constitution says I can have a jury. And because it was an indictable offence, I was entitled to a jury. So that was committed up to the district court. And that's how one charge of assault was committed up to the higher court.
Yep.
And because I won that, they pulled the others, because if the first incidents didn't happen, the rest couldn't have happened.
Okay, so does that mean that the other 6 charges that were in the magistrate's court, are they all from the same night, are they? The ones
same incident completely. So they separated the summary charges and indictable charges, and I could only commit up the indictable charge, and the summary charges stayed in the lower court.
Okay, so then going over to the summary charges, where the magistrate, where the police offered no evidence, generally known as vetoed. Can you explain? Did they explain to you how? When I was a police officer, there is no way, there's not a chance that I would be charging someone, especially like with something like willful damage of police property, and then I could come, 2 years later.
Sorry. So I actually ended up in a padded cell on that evening with them claiming, because I was studying criminology at the time, and I was talking about the amount of Indigenous people that die in custody while I was in the watch house. And I said, I no wonder why. It was just happened to be the subject I was studying at the time. And with the way they were treating me, bashing me around the cell and just horrible. I said, no wonder this happened. So then they decided I was suicidal, and they put me in a padded cell. And so to prove that I was not suicidal, I actually they took all my bra and everything off. I took my undies off, I put them over my head looking through the eyes, and I tied my hair under my chin. And I said, if I was suicidal, I could do it myself. I'm not suicidal, right? So crazy as that might seem, I was trying to make a point that everything from you're literally doing one thing, having a good time, and within 7 minutes, bang, 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 you're being thrown. So I think they dropped it because of the brutal cross-examination process of what actually happened.
Mm-hmm.
So the willful damage to police property is because during the process of them throwing me into the car, they sprained my ankle and the ambulance had to be called. And they gave me an ice pack, and the ice pack was actually leaking. And I also am a cake decorator, and I was in a frenzy. I was like, what is going on? And I with the end of it, I put OMG out of the blue ink. So they called that willful damage to police property. But the irony is it wasn't their property. It was actually the ambulance's property that they'd left behind. So it was over a $12 ice pack that was already damaged.
That would have washed off? Or so was the damage to the ice pack, or the damage was to a vehicle somewhere?
No, the ice pack was broken.
The ice, you're serious?
I picked it open with my fingernails, is what it said.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay.
Enough to put me in a padded cell.
So did they give? Was there any other reasons offered to you of why how they can offer no evidence? Was there anything else? Did they offer you anything? Any explanation?
No. That's part of the trick. So they can pull the case at any time they want up until minutes before trial. And they can say it's in public interest because it's been so long since this happened, or we simply offer no evidence because, the last couple of times, the witness was unavailable. We can't proceed because we don't have any witnesses. It's all part of the game. So they'll lead you right to the very end of court. And if they don't think they can win, they'll pull. And the problem is for people that pay for a solicitor, there's no recourse on costs for that. Right? And very rarely are they given costs under Section 158 capital A of the Justices Act. Very rarely will you be given that. So people are actually being damaged. They can lose their property, their homes, their livelihood, everything to fight something. And then they can walk in and say, we've got no evidence. It's no longer in public interest at the stroke of a pen.
And this is why it interests me so much. So I don't know if you remember, while we had the big pandemic going a couple of years ago, you might have heard of it. There was a little lady in Victoria who'd been charged by Victorian police, and they went around there. She put something up on Facebook. They went around there, executed a warrant late at night. They charged her.
Pregnant,
yeah, she was pregnant, and they let it drag on. And then just before it went to court, they did exactly that same thing. And when I was at the CCC, so I was a police officer, obviously, and then I was a surveillance officer seconded to the Crime and Corruption Commission. And I saw the CCC do a similar tactics with people. They would load people up on charges and people would be forced to pay all these exorbitant costs to lawyers. You'd think that they're in bed with the lawyers sometimes, and then just before it goes to court, I remember one chap complaining about it and saying he'd spent all this money, he'd end up losing his business and all this stuff, and then they go and pull the charges, bring it all back down to just the basic, it's actually just these, and that was serious. He was a serious criminal, but they didn't need to load him up with the 70 when they could have just done the 4 original.
Well, I don't do that, because on the reverse of what I've done, I ended up prosecuting police officers, and I can speak about it now because it wasn't ruled out as frivolous and vexatious. It was ruled out for a lack of further and better particulars, which I say is a load of anyway. So I've really seen the other side standing there as a prosecutor as well, and what happens. And when you say you would think that the solicitors and lawyers are in bed with them, when you file something in the court, as I understand, information only, what would I know? When you file a private prosecution in the court, you have to file it under a Form 3 or Form 4 summons and complaint. And there's a procedure to do that. You have to serve it on the other party. What I'm seeing here is now police are, and this is why it's just that it's so easy. We'll do this, we'll do this, we'll do this. And it doesn't matter. Once it goes to the court, next.
So my concern with all of this is that the law is basically, it's being weaponized. It's being weaponized, and police are using it. So would that be your understanding? Would that be your experience? Is that what you think's happened to you, that they really just brought all these charges because okay, at that time on that night they just wanted to deal with you, The best way that they could deal with you was just load you up. As a friend of mine said, ham and cheese sandwich. You know, you put all the layers in there,
Big
you put
stack
all
of
these
charges.
charges up
Yep,
there just to shut
exactly.
the woman up. Let's going to load her up. We're going to chuck her in the padded cell. We're going to do all these things, and then we're going to let it drag on for years. Hopefully, she'll just plead guilty, pay the fine, and that's it. Is that what you think's
In,
happened?
I have video footage of Lachlan Perry, who is a Queensland prosecutor. In the video footage, he's not meant to be part of any form of an arrest. He's supposed to be separate. He gets it later. Actually, in the office, high-fiving the police officer that interviewed me for something they brought to court, tried to put me in a green T-shirt, and later dropped 2 days before court.
A green
They were
t-shirt.
laughing at each other. We got her.
Yep.
I think the thing is when you challenge them juristically and in their system and you win and you make a big noise. I was in 120 newspaper articles because I was running for council. So it really blew up. And I became quite public about it, as I'm allowed to. And when you have a headline, not guilty in under 12 minutes, just as far, and that goes in there, it's really upset of people.
So my concern, getting back to just police and their role and everything, I believe that we've had for a long time, we've had a definite drop in our recruitment standards. It's fallen to such a low standard that we now have police who cannot even follow through with evidence to offer after taking the time to arrest and charge, or they don't have enough evidence to back up everything. So my concerns is that we've got this generation of police who are more interested in playing police officer, playing dress up as a police officer, and Mr. and Mrs. Police Officer, instead of actually having police who are interested in doing the hard work.
Keeping the peace.
Yeah, doing the hard work and following through and chasing up evidence and doing this. So that's where I'm coming at from. And that's why it interests me so much with what happened. I still, and that I think they've just done this to.
I started my run. Unfortunately, I was in a domestic violence relationship at the age of 42. And when I finally went to the police about it, and I've written a book about this, so you can't take the egg out of a cake once baked. And I didn't understand because I've never been involved in DV before and the cycle that entails. And I went to the police station and I got a young girl, Courtney Bellingham, and if I knew what I knew now, she probably wouldn't be a police officer any longer. But unfortunately, I didn't at the time. And I hope she's watching. She was 24 years of age. I have her affidavit witness statement for a trial. She went to Proserpine High School. No qualms about that. So did I. She then left Proserpine High School and worked at Woolworths and did a 5-month cadetship. 5 months. It's her own words in her own statement. And joined the police service. How she handled my case, she had no psychology background into DV. She didn't understand what it was. She promised me that she was going to help me. And in fact, she turned me from the victim to the perpetrator, only for a little bit. And that's how me challenging that really started escalating what I'd say is my internal forever to make sure we need the police. We need frontline workers. We need these people.
Yeah, for sure.
There's no qualm about that for me. We need them to be educated. You cannot get a diploma in anything, childcare, wiping a kid's bum and playing toys, anywhere that you can get in the police service.
Yeah, yep.
Right? They get loaded up with guns. They got a huge responsibility. And I'd say for them, personally, the mental capacity of what they see on a daily basis. And it's horrific, right? And I couldn't imagine there's a lot of dickheads out there, right? But at the end of the day, coming from a place, I guess, if I can say, you give a manager of Coles a little sign that says manager and a set of keys and a uniform, he will walk differently.
Yeah.
He will act differently. So you give a young kid after 5 months that's just been paid a shit ton of money to do fun stuff, and then you go off you go. They actually can't handle it. They can't do it. And until that changes and we separate, particularly DV, there's particularly specialised police officers that understand the cycles of domestic violence, the perpetrator, the victim, or we have people that are specialties in certain areas. We're never going to get professionalism in the police force, and we're certainly at the moment at 8 months training.
Yeah. So you definitely need, I think, when I didn't join the police straight out of school because I was on the cusp of the Fitzgerald inquiry, and they no longer took you straight out of school. They said you had to have life experience. Now I look back now and think they should still have that, because now we've got all these people in straight out of school again, and we're having these issues, all these, and it's nothing against young people, but this is what we're having, the issues with people who don't really understand life. They don't have enough experience. They don't have enough education, and they can't handle the pressures, and they're failing as police. And I think that's why we've also got so many shootings of civilians, because you've got police in there who shouldn't be in the job.
Yep.
Yeah.
So they've got this bravado, this, call it ego, call it whatever, this persona. I'm in my dress-up costume. Sorry, not being rude to you, to get into certain parts of the police, you either go up the ranks with a certain IQ, but to stay at the constable level, basically, you can't be above and you can't be below. It's what you do as part of the cadetship, right? But what they're doing is they're throwing these kids in there, yeah. And the minute they're frightened, they're human, right? Yeah. The minute they're frightened, they're reacting spontaneously because they don't have the life experience to go, hang on, mate, calm down, let's talk about this, you know?
Yeah.
They don't even have the same responsibilities as a security guard would with responsible alcohol. You know, let's get a drink of water, calm down, you know, try and de-escalate the situation.
Yep.
It's right, that's it, commando. I'm a police officer. You'll do what I say.
Yeah. I don't think, I remember when I was at the academy, it was drummed into me about your responsibilities and what your actual authority entailed and what you were actually able to do. And I'm just wondering whether now, because they've lowered the standards so much and they're so desperate for the amount of people that they need, that they just take whomever they can, whomever they will, and they've just accepted a lower standard across the board. And that's why I think we've got things like happen to you with people with getting charged and then everything getting dropped.
Have you seen their marketing campaigns at the moment? They've actually got them singing and dancing to songs and things like that. It's crazy. And the Crisafulli government at the moment, you know, we're bringing more cops on, this. I can't see many of them lasting for a couple, you know, and they're throwing them into places like Townsville that have got serious child crime and things like that. Yeah. How they're going to deal with these smart-ass little brats, and they're going to just react, and there's going to be a power trip, and these kids aren't going to come out any better if they go to jail, right? They've got no nurturing or anything like that. And this is the problem. And it is frightening, and it's more the attitude. It's just like, you know, I've got another video. Oh, should we arrest her? Yeah, let's do it, you know.
Yeah.
And they don't understand. And I think the biggest thing by prosecuting them, right, 8 of them, not that it was successful, and I would not say it's not successful because I was wrong. It was not successful because of the magistrate as the gatekeeper for the state government, because if I got this across the line, it would open a floodgate. But if anyone wants to know, information only, it's a Form 3 or a Form 4 of the Justices Act. You can find it on the Queensland website, and it's $111.70. It's way cheaper than getting a lawyer, right? So at the end of the day, we, the people, have the right to stand and say this is enough.
Yeah.
But we need the police, and we need to work together with them.
Yeah.
And I will say there's a new senior sergeant in my region, and I have spoken to him, and we've had a great chat. He told me he was brought in to turn the ship around, and ever since he's been there with a couple of incidences that have happened with a neighbour and a few other things, I will say they've been very, very accommodating and very different tone. I'm not sure if that's my private prosecutions or it's the new senior sergeant, but it's been a change of wording, everything, the way they speak to me, everything.
That's great. Leadership does really matter in these circumstances. Listen, I'm going to have to wrap things up, unfortunately. I would say I'd love to have you on again and just have another chat at some other point. Now, as you said before, the things that you're saying, and I'm going to have this up this will have been put up at the start of the program, but any information that you're saying, it's not, you're not giving legal advice or anything like that. This program today is just for entertainment purposes, and you're just explaining what has gone on
Make
with
that
you.
very clear to the Legal Service Commissioner who's suing me from another program that I did on North Queensland Freedom Network was also for entertainment purposes only. And anything that I've just said, you can Google yourself.
Yeah. Yes, as we said, entertainment purposes. Heidi's explaining what's happened with her. I'm interested because from a police perspective, like I said many a time before to my listeners, I don't think we're on a good pathway when it comes to our policing and the recruitment processes. I think also the Queensland Police Union has a lot to blame for their role in all this. Anyway, listen, Heidi, thank you very much for joining me. It's been very entertaining. Great to hear your story and explain what's actually going on. And please, Heidi, is there anything, if you got anything, is there anything you need to plug? If you got a website or anything, if someone does want to talk to you or anything like that? You said you had a book?
No, I'm on Facebook, but don't come to me with traveling in your automobile or think that I'm going to help you save the world. I'm really not interested. Those that help themselves help forever. But I think really quickly, the horse is bolted. What we've got is a problem. We've got a stallion in a stable and he's taken off. And if my friend Drew is listening to this, it's his comment. And we are running after it. We need to do the art of the war, and we need to go around and find out where it rests, where it drinks, where it stops, so we can talk to it there, because it's running away from us. So every time we raise jurisdiction in the court, or we raise whether something's a correct summons and complaint, we're screamed at by the magistrate. Yeah, you can't do this. The magistrate recently said to me, "Get yourself together. What a load of garbage." And I said, "Did you just say get yourself together?" I recorded it. So I was at home. So I think the entire system, we know how to unpack it, but it needs change. It needs a absolute change. I have the first edition of the Fitzgerald Inquiry. I found it in a bookshop, and that's what we need.
Yeah.
We need another Mr. Fitzgerald. And we need these people, and we need to make it look like an attractive job, not because you can dance to a song, but because it's important.
Yeah.
And make it serious.
Yeah.
Their job is serious. It's not jokes and giggles and funny and dancing and come and meet the koala and the cop at the PCYC.
And how good you look in your uniform.
Yeah.
I'm sick of it.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I actually pulled one of the cops off in cross-examination with the big long fake nails and this. And I said, under the Operation Police Manual, are you allowed to have that? Yes. I said, oh, you might like to have a read of it. So problem is they're not trained properly, and ChatGPT, things like that are changing now. People become more aware. The average puncher's smarter than the cops.
Yeah, unfortunately.
And that's a problem for criminals as well.
Yeah.
Because we have some baddies out there.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And this is the problem. The baddies aren't always dumb. So you need intelligent people being police officers. Hey, look, once again, thanks very much for joining me, Heidi. And
okay.
Thanks very much for joining me. And my name's j-fallon. You've joined me, Heidi Ward, on the Slippery Slope. Thank you very much. This is my opinion. Thanks very much for joining us.
You know me.
They just fuel a desire that will take me higher.